Alright, so today's video is a little bit different than normal. What we're talking about today is it worth it to reload versus buying factory ammo? And that's a common question. A lot of people are like, well, it's so expensive to get started, and do you really save money? If you ask my wife, she would tell you I don't save any money, I just shoot a lot more. But yeah, aside from that, you can save money if you reload. So going into the local shops recently, something that we've been noticing is that even though the prices are coming down a little bit and stuff's starting to come back in stock, it's still not as inexpensive as it used to be. So for instance, boxes of, just regular 9mm training ammo is starting to go for anywhere from 17 to 20 bucks. So for the sake of the video, we're just going to round it to $20 a box on 9mm. However, your 38 seems to be one of the ones that's just an elusive round, and it's always expensive. So we're finding this in the store for $39.99 plus tax, and thank you to the great state of California, we also have to pay an ammo background of $1 on top of that. So when you really think about it, it's a little over 40, but we're just going to round it to $40 for 38, and that's for 50 cartridges. Then you have some of your harder stuff to find, like your 50 Beowulf, and this is where reloading starts to make sense. So for this box of 50 Beowulf in the store, it's 50 bucks, and you only get 20 rounds. Now don't get me wrong, you can find it for 40 bucks, 42, 43, but for this purpose of this video, we're just going to say 40 bucks for a box of 20 of the Beowulf. Now cartridges like your 45 ACP and your 223, they're kind of in a different price range. So 45 here, we're able to get it for about 30 bucks for 50 rounds, and 223 sits right around $13 for 20 rounds. So if you think about that, even when you have high priced components like your powders that are running $50 a piece for a 1-pound jug, which seems crazy because not that long ago we were getting jugs, 1-pound jugs, for $17, $19, and depending on what brand you bought. Where they really starts to get expensive is these right here, which as far as I'm concerned, these are, for a while they were almost unicorn dust. I mean, that's how hard they were to find. And the primers now have kind of settled back down from the crazy prices that we were seeing during the situation in 2020. Anyways, they're still hovering around $130 at most local shops. If you're really lucky and you go into some of the shops that did their best to keep their prices reasonable and down, you're still paying $85 a box for these. So for the purpose of this video, we're going to have two separate costs that are going to be associated with reloading. One's going to assume you're able to get primers at $85 a thousand, and the second price that you're going to see is going to assume that you're having to pay $135 per thousand on the primers. So another big factor in your reloading, aside from, as long as you have all the equipment to reload, another big factor in your cost is going to be your brass. So for us, all of our brass is range scrap pickup or inexpensive brass that we're able to get for free locally. So the price that you're going to spend on reloading is going to largely depend on where you source your components. And like I said, $50 a pound for powder, it seems like it's a terrible price, but when we start to break down the actual price per round, you're going to be pretty surprised. Projectiles, this is another one that's, it's expensive to buy them, but depending on where you get them, it's not too bad. And again, you're really going to start to see it when it all adds up, price per round and how much you spend on a box versus a factory box. There's another way that you can go ahead and cast your own, which you can save a lot of money, especially if it's for training, just plinking around. But brass is going to be the biggest thing, because this is something that you can pick up at places where people shoot, or sometimes if you're lucky, your local ranges will sell you a bucket of it relatively cheap. We pick all of ours up for free, so we have no cost going into brass, and that's something that you're going to notice that's going to really make a big difference on our cost per round. Alright, so we're going to run through just kind of a cost on reloading 9mm and go over the cost of that. So for 9mm for the projectiles, we pay about 8 cents. 8 to 8.5 cents. So we're going to use 8.5 cents as our actual number. The primers, again, like I said, this is where it can be a little bit more expensive or you can save some money. So we're going to do two different prices. One price using 85 cents or $85 a box, which comes out to 8 cents, 8.5 cents a primer. And then we're going to do one where it's $130 a box of 1,000, which is going to come out to 13 cents per primer. Brass, as we mentioned before, is going to be free, and powder. So for reloading the 9mm with the powder, this is where it gets interesting, because depending on how much weight you charge it with, you could get an insane amount. So to do the rough calculation, we're going to use 4 grains. So there's 7,000 grains in a pound of powder. So if we divide 7,000 by 4, we're going to come up with 1,750 rounds that we could load out of 1 pound of powder. So it goes pretty far, right? Now, if we look back at our total cost per round on this, loading 9mm, we're looking at around $9.92 a box if we get the primers for $85 a box, or 8.5 cents each. And on the high side, if we pay $130 for the primers, 13 cents a primer, we're looking at $12.17. So you can already kind of get the idea there. So 9mm for a box of factory ammo, we're looking at 20 bucks. But when you consider $20 versus $9.92 on the low side, and on the high side $12.17, you're already saving $7.83. So, you know, give or take 8 bucks. You're saving $8 a box for every box you load. You load 3 of these boxes and you've already got an extra box. Now, does that mean you're saving money or you're going to shoot more? Well, it depends on you. For me, and if you ask my wife, I'm going to shoot more because I like to shoot. So that's what I do. Shoot a lot. Now, when you get up here to the 38, this is where reloading really starts to shine, and it makes sense because how expensive these are in the store right now at $40 a box. We're going to run through these numbers. So the projectiles, or bullets if you would, for these, when I buy these, I pay around 9.5 cents or less. So at 9.5 cents here, 8.5 cents to 13 cents here, free on the brass again, and the powder. So powder for these, again, depending on what powder you're going to use, is going to determine how many rounds you can load. But it ends up being quite a bit. So in the end, our powder cost, when you divide it down for this per round, ends up being just under 3 cents. So 0.0285 per round. Anyways, we're going to total this all up here on the 38s. If we were to reload these, our cost on these is $11.22 to $13.47 versus the $40 price tag. So when you're talking $40 for one box versus $11.22 to $13.47, that's a 26 give or take dollar savings. So you can almost load 2 of these on the high side for the same price as buying 1 box of factory ammo. Then you get into your stuff like 50 Beowulf. So for your 50 Beowulf, hello Wookie. For your 50 Beowulf, this is another one where it really starts to shine. Now don't get me wrong, if you're using little gun or 42-27, you do have a relatively high charge weight in terms of powder, but it still goes surprisingly far. So you're getting quite a few rounds out of it. We'll go through the breakdown again, just all the way from the beginning. So for projectiles, for these, I'm able to get really nice copper plated bullets for these for 25 cents each. Again, primers, we're going to do two different costs, $85 a box and $130 a box. Brass, free. Now Beowulf is a little bit different. It's kind of hard to find it free, so if you're shooting it, most likely you're picking it up. That's where you're going to kind of get it. Aside from that, to be honest, I've never found Beowulf on any of the ranges or places that people shoot around me. So, might have to pay for some of that brass, but we're still saying it's free because that's how I based my calculations, so I don't care. Anyways, powder. So for the powder, if you divide 1 pound down by the grain weight that I typically charge mine at, you're looking at 28.5 cents for the powder. So we're going to add all that up, and on our Beowulf, we're looking at, to load a box of 20, we're looking at about $12.44 to $13.34 versus the factory ammo price of $40, which of course plus tax and your awesome $1 California background nonsense. But besides that, that's a saving of $26 a box. So you can basically, again, you could load 2 boxes of Beowulf for the cost of 1 factory ammo. So there's other exotic rounds out there, plenty of them that, you know, are really expensive in the store that you could load for quite a bit less. The whole thing is, when it comes to loading for less, what ends up happening for me is I just shoot more. But that's the reason why I got into reloading in the first place. I wanted to be able to enjoy time at the range with the kids, with my nephew, with my wife, and I wanted us all to be able to train, practice, and and just kind of, it's a hobby that we enjoy, and it's a great thing to always practice. So you know, if you train with your rifle and your pistol regularly, you're gonna get better. It's something that we do together and we enjoy. So we're gonna go through, I'm gonna throw a little chart up on the screen, and you'll kind of get to see what I'm talking about in terms of the price of reloading versus factory ammo.